Hi, this is Ross Harrison with Precision Health and Fitness, and today I'm coming back with my third video on things you can do at home to stay healthy. So the first couple videos I've talked more about some theory, some ideas on why, and today I'm going to get more into some actual things you can do today to start feeling better. And so I decided to start with the shoulder. So research is there's a lot of research in now that basically says practically everyone is going to have a lot of either shoulder and or back pain at some point in their lives, whether it's chronic injuries or what. There's those two areas of the body we're not doing a very good job of keeping healthy. So I'm going to go with shoulder today, and I'm sure I'll do a video on low back or maybe more, who knows. But the shoulders are probably the most challenging joint to keep healthy. And one of the reasons is we use them all the time, and a lot of the times the shoulder is not in the position that it should be in, or we do exercises that our body is not at all prepared to be able to handle. So the first thing I'm going to give you today is a very simple diagnostic tool you can use to get a very basic amount of information about your shoulder health. And all you need is yourself and a wall. So there's it'd be great if you could see this from multiple angles, but for now I'll just tell you that my knee is about this far from the wall. The goal here is to keep your hips, shoulders, and as much of your back as possible flat against the wall. So from this position, all you have to do is raise one hand and try to touch it against the wall with your arm straight. And then do that with both sides and see how that feels. So here's the rules though. Everybody likes to cheat with this. I will say most people, most adults especially, will fail on one or both sides. I actually fail on both sides. So just to let you know, here's the cheats. When your arm goes up, first you don't want to raise it. If you raise and lift or tilt your body, it doesn't count. You have to keep your shoulders even, keep your shoulder down and relaxed. So for me, that's as far as I can go. If I extend my thumb, that's about the distance my hand is from the wall. If I extend my thumb, I can touch the wall. But without it, I have to push back. And if you have to push back to reach the wall instead of just being relaxed and having your hand be able to touch the wall, again, it doesn't count. Also, if you feel any discomfort whatsoever, not even pain, but just if you feel like your arm, like it's stuck or you have to force, that doesn't count either. So the left side, I'll also say, I currently do have a minor shoulder injury on my left, and I think it actually came from sleeping wrong. I'm still sort of rehabbing that, and I've also probably done some activities I shouldn't. So it doesn't matter how much you know about this stuff, you can still overdo it and cause problems. So on the right side, and I've had shoulder injuries for probably 25 years. I played a lot of water polo and did swimming when I was younger, and during college I had problems with both my shoulders. My right one typically is worse, so like on this side, my hand's probably about that far from being able to touch the wall. It doesn't hurt, and again, I can push back, but if I'm just relaxed, my hand won't touch the wall. So here's why this is important. The simple takeaway from this, if you can't do this on both sides, and also it doesn't, like warming up a ton and taking anti-inflammatories and doing other things to be able to do this also doesn't count. For you to be successful with this little diagnostic, you really after you've at least been up and walking around for a little while, at any point in the day, ideally you should be able to just raise your arm, touch the wall, keeping your back flat against the wall. Like if I arch my back, sure, I can touch the wall, but keeping everything against the wall, no. So what this means is you should not do any exercises where you're lifting weights above your head. And so the problem being, people are like, oh, my shoulder hurts, or I need to strengthen my shoulder. And usually one of the first things they do is say, okay, I'm going to grab some weights and push them over my head. If you fail this test and push weights over your head, all you do is make your shoulder worse, or you make your back worse. Pretty much the two main problem areas of the body, one or both of them will get worse by lifting any kind of weights over your head, even with as good a form as you can possibly do. The reality is if you can't do this, then you can't perform those with good form. It's technically impossible. What will happen is if you're lifting a weight over your head, either your arms will go forward or you'll rotate your back, or something will happen, because what this position does is it tells you this is essentially how your core should be when you are lifting weights over your head. And the hand against the wall is technically the position that your hand should be in when the weights go over your head. So if you can't do it against the wall with no weight, you certainly can't do it with weight and stress and tension. So this is just a starting point, but it will give you a decent idea of where your arms are or where your shoulders are. So, and again, the vast majority of adults realistically will not be able to do this, at least on one side and probably both. And that's okay. The good news is you can train everything you need to get better with this. And I will say, over the last couple of years, I've practiced more on this and done some things, and I've actually gotten much closer to the wall. Like, I was probably this far on both sides, and now, like, my one arm on good days can actually do it. But you do retrain this by not pushing anything over your head and doing some other simple things. So the other thing I'm going to show you, change the camera here, is this is sort of one of my favorite things to teach people. And when you're doing exercises to improve the health of your shoulder, getting your smaller muscles to work and like the supportive stabilizers in your shoulder is probably the most important thing, at least in my opinion. Like, typically when people think about making their shoulder healthier or stronger or whatever, all they end up doing is training the muscles that are already strong. But the muscles that support those underneath don't really get any work. So this to me is sort of like the key to training the muscles you need to make your whole shoulder stronger, not just make the bigger muscles stronger, which eventually will actually cause problems. So I like to say there's a point. There's a point where if you relax, and you don't need to be against the wall, you can do this you can do this however you want to. Actually, standing is probably better. So without support, just your feet can be wherever you want. Just get into a position where you feel stable and you feel like your core is essentially pretty upright. Here, move back a little bit. And so from this position, just try to keep your shoulders in line. One of the things people like to do when they move their arms is move their shoulders forward, because it allows more motion, but actually having your shoulder in as much in the socket as possible is one of the keys to a healthy shoulder. So if you're always lifting and your arms go forward, like you can just see it. What does that do to my back? It typically pulls your center of gravity forward and puts more stress on your low back. Again, a lot of times if you have dysfunction in one, you're going to have dysfunction in both. So with this one, just move your arms out to the side. And the key here is to identify the point, and I'm going to close my eyes here for a second because it helps me feel it easier. There's a point, for me it's right here, and it can be a little different for everybody, and it can be different on both arms. So there's a point right here. This is as far as my arms can go, as far as going high without engaging my biggest muscles. So this range for me will train the stronger, or the stabilizer muscles that are supporting. I can lift my arms higher. Like, it's not like I can't, or it's not like I have pain, but at this point, when I go even just a little higher, I start feeling some other things engaging. And it's usually, that's the point where the bigger muscles take over and the smaller muscles stop working. So if you can stay in the range where the bigger muscles don't kick in, you will actually develop a much healthier shoulder. So even without, and this can be very hard to identify. Typically, a lot of times people can't feel it, and It's hard. And once you get weight, you can typically feel it a little better. So I'm going to show you an example. Just got 2 5-pound weights. 5-pound weights are not light for this type of movement. Again, here I don't like showing bad things, but a lot of times you'll see like this kind of thing in the gym. Just please don't. If you're doing a lateral shoulder kind of move, it's straight to your side. You don't want your arms to go forward. You don't want to pull your body down or shift. But this is still this is both diagnostic and this actually strengthens what you need. So if I allow the weights to go straight out to the side, and this one is very different because this is sort of the direction that I'm going to feel my little injury on the left. So on the left arm, that's as high as I can go. And if I go I physically can go higher, but I start to feel a little discomfort. On the right side, I can basically I can go to the exact same point with the weight as I could without a weight. And I feel the same thing, just more intensely and this is the difference on my 2 arms right now. So each of these points, if I go any higher, muscles are going to start to engage that I don't want to engage. Now, if my left shoulder was healthy, it would mirror my right, because I've been working on this for a while. And in a couple weeks, or a week or two, something like that, my left will be equal to my right, as long as I keep doing the things I should. But for now, the important thing is just knowing if I move in this range, my shoulder will get stronger in a way that will benefit me long term. If I push past that range and go up to here, it may feel like I'm doing more work and it may feel like I'm getting a better workout. You can almost certainly use heavier weights, but it will create more shoulder dysfunction. So again, this is one of the things where if you just want to lift heavy weight for the sake of lifting heavy weight, you can do that. It's going to come at a cost, and it may be a cost you don't feel for 10 or 20 years. But especially if you have shoulder pain, moving in the range that doesn't hurt is one of the best things you can do. And it's not about the weight. Initially, especially if you do have active discomfort, moving, because obviously I have more pain-free range without the weight. The heavier the weight gets, the lower my range will get before it starts to hurt. So more range is good when you're trying to recover from an injury. This can be done in any direction with different hand positions, and each one of those, if I go forward, that's my height. Again, I can go higher, but that's the height I can go if I really want to train the stabilizers. There's a V motion is another sort of movement in the plane of the scapula, which may not mean anything, but that's another common one that is really good. But with all of these, one of the things to keep in mind, particularly, I like to start with the side because it's easier to keep your shoulder here. A lot of times when people start moving forward, the shoulder also moves forward. So if you can practice just lifting your arms and keeping your shoulder in the socket, that's another great exercise to help train the shoulder to work in the right way. Because the stronger the stabilizers get, and the more you keep the shoulder in a position where it's mechanically effective, when you move it forward, you've limited the effectiveness of some of your shoulder muscles in favor of ones that are probably already overworked. Again, this may sound complicated, but just stick with the basics of identify the point where it feels like you're relaxed and you're moving. And then when you go past that point, you start feeling things engage, usually up here, possibly even tension in your neck and shoulder or upper traps. Any of that you don't want. It should feel like a relaxed motion, pretty much even with light weights. So again, if you get heavy enough, you're going to feel tension all the time. And if you start feeling a lot of tension in your neck, the weight's too heavy. It doesn't matter what range, just you want a lack of tension above your shoulder. Beyond that, the more you get comfortable with identifying the point that you should go to, it'll just become automatic. Whether you have weights or not, whatever movement you come in, It's the brain says, okay, is my core stable? Am I supported below me? That's where I should go. The more movement you can do, and it can be, there's all kinds of movements you can do, but the better you can identify that spot and stick with it, it's amazing how much better your shoulder will function. So that's some take-home tips for today. You can start playing with it. Definitely do the diagnostic and just get an idea of if there's any shoulder dysfunction. Basically, this is just like a level 1 diagnostic. I think there's actually, if I remember, either 4 or 5 different exercises people should be able to do correctly before they lift anything over their head. And again, during life, a lot of times you do have to lift things over your head. I'm not saying don't ever lift anything over your head, but using exercises that are based on lifting over your head, if this test doesn't go well, then it's bad for you. It doesn't matter how much stronger you feel, how much weight you can lift, the motion is bad for your body. So hope you get some benefit from this, and I'll be back with probably some low back stuff, but who knows. Have a great day.